So do you ever feel overwhelmed, especially in the info product world? There are so many moving parts that confusion is basically the status quo. And that is why you need to have a project management system in place. Look, if you're starting out, it can be something simple, and otherwise you can get Basecamp and various other programs that can help you sort out your projects. Hey, I'm John Harris, and bam, this is Info Products. Welcome to our digital studio. We're on step 4. So to recap on the product creation system, we had the psychology, the mindset, we had the reach, your marketing, whom you're going to sell to, we had the product, the actual system of making an offer, getting your message framed in a way that you're going to get some traction and get people to interact with your message, getting the right message, the right media to the right market. And now we're on the offer, so we're on actual the project planning, how to get this thing to be planned out properly so that we can make it happen. And there are there's certain things that we need to get in place first. And one of them is there's 4 steps that you need to look at when it comes to your principal planning process. And so you want to understand the power of people. It's very important to try and get the best out of the people and try to get the best people you can deal with. But if you're dealing with subcontractors and you're dealing with other people, it may take a while before you get the right people in place and get the right team together. You're going to have a certain core team, and then you're going to subcontract as much as you can out to the market. The people process and the people and handling of people is very important. The next thing you need to understand is you need time up front that will save you time on the back end. And by that I mean you need to make sure that you have things described properly, the roles laid out properly, and people understand that you have a template that they fully understand what's expected of them. Your description of what you want needs to be very accurate and articulated in a way that they understand and can move forward. It saves you a huge amount of time at the end. When I started trying to do this, I landed up with a lot of overwhelm. I tried to do everything myself and did it to a very basic level, which wasn't good enough. I then started to learn to delegate and build a Rolodex and get the right people to do the right things. But to manage that, you need to have a project management system. And look, you can do this on your drive. You can lay out on a sheet, and you can get certain people doing certain things by certain times, and you can build that profile out on Google Sheets. So, and everybody that you need in there can have access here, and you can build that project out with a time frame. So it's very important to do that, because I can tell you it can become very frustrating and very stressful if you get into a situation where you're trying to manage everything and do everything yourself and you start doing things in the wrong order. It's kind of like putting 2 parts together on a car that you've had to service and put together, and then you find something left over that should have been put on prior to where you're at now. So you have to start doing a whole lot of things to put that part back in the sequence that it should have been put in. It's very frustrating. The next thing I want to talk about is really to specify, and as I mentioned, to be clear with the time that you spend up front with the pre-planning and how you get this good, and then as I mentioned, to specify exactly what your requirement is. And I can't overstress this, I've mentioned a couple of times, because the more specific you can, the more you template out each job. If you template it out and have the process that you've gone through for the specific item or specific task, you can then put that as a template to your required subcontractor, whoever you want to, who's been doing that work for you, and even your own staff, that they're fully in the loop and they understand what their role is, what's expected of them, and they can perform to the highest level. You may get stuck with people that you don't seem to be communicating right, or they don't seem to be doing the job, and it may be because you're asking them to do something that's out of their skill set. It takes a lot of understanding where each individual player is and what they're capable of and how they overlap and how they integrate. Next, I need to talk about breaking it down into simple steps. If you get a stage and a step and the task, there's too many actions, it breaks down. You need to break those tasks up and into smaller steps, and so that you can become more manageable. These are very important, simple things, but very important things to put in perspective and make sure that you have them up front. Next, I want to talk about the 5 steps to plan with precision when it comes to your project planning. And the first thing to do, the first out of the 5, is define your outcome. Everything you do on the online world, and when you're creating your product, you're creating your funnel, you need to have an objective. You need to understand what the end result is that on each step, and overall, what is it that you're trying to achieve. And that objective must be very clearly defined and very carefully understood. And that's why I mentioned that time up front. You need to think about this. You need to articulate it to make sure that you really understand what the objective is, what the outcome is that you're trying to achieve up front. Those results up front are very important. That's what you're trying to attain. Then you know what direction you're going in, and it gives you a better understanding of how to get there. Next, you need to determine your resources. And we know time, money, people, there are many tools, there are many resources that you need, but bearing in mind the thing we've spoken about before, and what will happen to you is you will never ever have enough resources. You're always adding, as you're growing, more resources and more capacity, and the sophistication, the level of sophistication is always curving up at a rapid rate as you expand and your business becomes more intricate and more sophisticated. You need to be resourceful. You're going to have spanners thrown in the works all the time, and you're going to get problems all the time. You're going to need to make decisions all the time, and you need to be resourceful. Can't be overstressed enough. You'll never have enough resources. Many times you're going to have to be resourceful, and then you'll be able to get more resources on. Number 3, write down subpoints to complete your project. So you need to take points down and then have sub-points in there so that you understand this is your main task, and if there's some sub-tasks or sub-points that you need in there, how to break that down. Again, that's going to help clarify under a specific task what actions are required to achieve that specific task. So make sure that you do that in a very concise, effective, and efficient manner. The next, number 4, have a clear system and monitor your team. You cannot just leave this thing. So if you're using Basecamp, or if you're using your Drive and you're inviting members on there, and you need to be up to speed with what's going on. Because the overall view, if you are the overall contractor, if you're looking at what's happening, you must make sure that the parts are being integrated correctly and you're getting what you want, so there's synergy between the different areas that you're working in. Next, you need to acknowledge the close of your project. So if you get a close date, you're always going to have to budget out and say, okay, that's your termination and that's your budget. A lot of times just have some cushion there, because most of the time you're going to overextend the time that it's going to take you, and you're going to overreach on your budget. It's what happens. So you're going to have the best possible guidelines you can. Always give yourself a buffer, always. And have a plan A, B, C, and D, because you're going to need flexibility is one of the key components here. That's a little bit about that. And what I'd like to mention here is some of the mistakes that people make within their projects, and this is what you need to try and avoid. Not being clear on the ultimate outcome. As I mentioned, you need the outcome. A lot of people start projects with a basic idea of what they want to achieve. And guys, this is not enough. You need to have a very well defined and articulated outcome. The next mistake you want to avoid at all costs is not anticipating those challenges that will come in. So problems that come in, you need to have various options. You need to build 3 options. Otherwise, if you've got 2, it's only a choice. It's not options. You need to look at how you're going to handle that decision making and problem solving. The next you need to understand is not documenting as you go. It's very valid and very important and very useful to document as you go along. If you write out as you go along, you have something to fall back on, and you can look at your notes and look at the various aspects and things where you may have gone wrong, where you can adjust it, and that is useful for marketing, for HR as you go forward, for getting other people on so they can slot into what you've been doing and they understand exactly what transpired in the past. That's very useful to document as you go along. Not being flexible. As I mentioned, that flexibility is critical, because you will never have a project and a plan that's perfect. You can work that plan as best you can, but there will always be a change of direction, and you need that flexibility, especially online. You're going to have a minimal viable product, an MVP, and people are going to come back to you and tell you the changes you need to make. That's what the clients and the customer is asking for you. So you need to be able to deliver that. You need to make those changes and deliver a better product. It's always by doing those surveys and understanding that you can reiterate and get something done to a higher level. Not giving yourself a buffer. So, as I mentioned, you've got to have that flexibility on time and budget. and even turnover of staff and contractors. You're going to need that flexibility till you build the team you want and get it within a time that you're still successful, even if it's overextended, and the budget. Very important. Continue to make the same mistakes over and over. A lot of times we'll make a mistake. All of us are guilty of this. We forget about these things and we come in another angle and we get a similar situation and we make the same mistake. It's just come from a different direction. We haven't recognized it. We need to understand not to make the same mistakes. The top guys in the world, if you're talking Tony Robbins and the guys, when they do at the end of their his presentation, his seminar, he does 6-day seminar, these massive events he holds. He's got a team that goes over this thing all the time, looking for small improvements all the time. And these fanatical levels of delivering and over-delivering is what gets him to that level of operation. And anyone else who's out there, whether it's Elon Musk, whoever it is, they're looking all the time to get to a higher level. Allowing problems, and this is the last one, number 7, allowing problems to fester. When you're working with people, you will get exasperated if you don't control and face and confront any of these issues. If you let small problems fester, they become bigger problems and bigger problems. You need to take control. You need to put those fires out immediately before they become major catastrophes. So when you're dealing with people and even systems, technology, you're going to have a lot of issues. And this is a complex system that we're creating. When you're creating a product, you are doing R&D, you're doing everything, your minimal viable products, you're marketing, you're doing sales, you're doing the administration, you're doing purchasing, supply chain, you're doing everything here. So there are a lot of working parts, and that's why you need to have systems in place. It is the systems that will take control in the end and make things possible. So that's a little bit about the project planning. You need to just make sure that as you go along that you understand where you are in the overall process, that we're looking at product. Remember I mentioned the psychology, the mindset, the reach. You're looking at the offer, your hooks, and how you're going to develop your message, your story, how you'll develop that. And now you're looking at how you're going to manage all of this thing, how you're going to have a project, and it'll get more sophisticated as you grow as a business. I hope some of this has been useful. As usual, you can go and like, subscribe, follow us on the various platforms. You can go to Info Products, the actual Facebook page. There's a link there to get a bit more information. If you're looking at a bit more training, there's a link to get some more video training. So you can do some of these things that'll help you grow. All this is about trying to make your life a little bit easier. By people who've been through a lot of these stress and strains, and how you can then start to move forward in a more organized fashion, saving both time and money. And as usual, we will see you in the next episode.